What's up, guys? Welcome to G Whiskey. My name is Jeff. This is a channel where I offer my thoughts and opinions on a specific whiskey, and if you stick around to the end, I'll be giving it a score as well. If that sounds interesting, hit subscribe down below. And with that out of the way, let's jump into our review. Today we're looking at the Glen Scotia 18-year-old. Stick around. Alright, so we got another 18-year-old with us today. This is the Glen Scotia 18. This one is part of a series that I'm doing, like an ongoing series where I'm looking at different 18-year-old whiskeys. I'm getting through it slowly but surely. And there's actually a reason why I want to look at all the 18-year-old whiskeys I have now rather than later. And that reason is whiskey prices. That's right. Not even a minute into this video and I'm already off on a rant. That must be some kind of record. But yeah, whiskey prices. This year went up a lot. Sucks. Don't like it. And most of what was hit was aged stuff. A lot of the entry-level stuff, or the stuff that's around 10 or 12 years old, it might have gone up, but it's relatively stable. Stuff like 15-year-olds definitely took a hit, but it's the stuff that's like 18 years old or older that really went up in price dramatically. And that's kind of why I want to look at a lot of the 18-year-olds that I have on hand now rather than later, because honestly, I don't know how many of these I'm going to buy again. And I'm sure it's not just me. I'm sure there are plenty of you out there that are also having your last hurrah with 18-year-olds. Nope, that's not what I mean. But with the recent price hikes, I think the entire 18-year-old category is starting to look less and less interesting and less worthwhile for a lot of people, and I think that's totally fair. So while I've still got them, I figured I'd take a look at the 18-year-olds that I've got on my shelf. I think interest will start to wane over time for a lot of people. And again, I don't know how many of these whiskeys I'll be buying again myself. So yeah, now's the time to take a look. I think pretty soon, aged whiskey, stuff that's 18 years old or older, will be something for elites only for the haves, only for the rich people, a group of which I am not a member. By the way, I have a Patreon. So I actually held off on buying the Glen Scotia 18 for a little while, and that's because I heard from a lot of people that if you want Glen Scotia at its finest, you're better off with their Victoriana, which is a no age stated higher ABV option. It's a delicious whiskey. I'll link it up there if you want to take a look at my review. But yeah, people said Victoriana or the 15. People said the 15 was the best bang for buck if you're going for the age stated stuff. And that might be the case, because a lot of people out there are still pretty dismissive of the 18-year-old. I think generally people are starting to warm up to it, but yeah, a lot of people still say it's not worth the money. But I stumbled across it in a shop, I guess, last year. And by stumbled across, I mean I walked in and encountered it soberly. I wasn't drunk. I never drink. Alcohol is the devil's nectar. But yeah, I found this on sale one day and I thought, what the hell? The price was right. And listen, Glen Scotia is not my favorite distillery. It can be hit or miss, but they've given me enough hits that I figured I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. And here we are. This one is bourbon matured with an Oloroso sherried finish. We have a nice age statement here. It's from a respected brand. It could be a good one. So let's find out. Let's jump into the review. And in the meantime, if you could kindly leave a like down below, that'd be greatly appreciated. Looks like we've got some pretty good specs here. This one comes in at 46% ABV. It is non-chill filtered, and I believe it's also natural color. Of course, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, it looks like 3 out of 3, so huzzah. Damn, so that looks pretty shiny on camera. Anyway, this is actually the old look. They have a new look coming out, new labels coming out that look like that, and I do have to say, I like the smart look that they've gone for with the redesign. I don't mind the old bottles, but I think that looks a little bit more self-assured. It's less flashy. That being said, I do like this bottle. I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 for presentation. Of course, I am being pretty generous there, but I'm not as clever as I look, and I like shiny things. So nothing about color here. It does say non-chill filtered, but you have to look to the box for that. Nothing about it here on the label or on the bottle. We've got some tasting notes on the back. On the front, it says gently matured in American oak, which is better than being violently matured in American oak. It says finished in Oloroso casks. Our info is okay here. It could be better, but not bad, and I don't mind the look. I prefer this without water. Let's try our nose. Okay, caramel, buttermilk, Werther's Original, kind of creamy, some vanilla in there. Honey and malt. There's some condensed milk. There's red berries, vanilla pudding, sweet pastries with powdered sugar. We have a touch of menthol in here. It's a sweet nose, but it works. Now the palate. All right. This is oily. It's an oily whiskey. Some nice buttery, creamy flavors up front. Buttery, creamy texture as well. Got some spices in there. Got like pepper, a little bit of nutmeg even. Again, Werther's Original, like those vanilla, creamy, buttermilk, caramel type notes. There's lots of cola in here. There's some like dark raisin notes, like raisins, dates, prunes, that kind of thing. There's molasses, candied apple. There's oak in here. And we have some salty notes, some savory salty notes in there too. And now our finish. Okay. Our oak gets a little bit more bitter here. I get notes of like coffee, dark chocolate in there. Again, that kind of like condensed milk note, vanilla frosting. There's earth in here. Rum balls, rum raisin, rum balls. We also have cola, but cola without much of the sugar. There is a floral honey note in here. Our finish is medium to long with some lingering pepper, like white pepper type notes. So this is an interesting departure from the 15 and the Victoriana, which I think are like baseline Glen Scotias for a lot of people. This one goes in a different direction. I think that kind of shocks a lot of people. I think that's why a lot of people are disappointed. But I like this. I think it's got its own flavor, it's got its own character, and there's some fun things in here that we can pick apart. So first and foremost, I'll say that I like the texture of this whiskey. It's a very oily whiskey, so it's like oily and rich and mouth coating, and we have some great flavors in here too. I really like that sort of like creamy, buttery, caramel, vanilla, Werther's Original type note. It gives it kind of a luxurious vibe. I also like the cola in here, the raisins, the dates. There's plenty to like. There's a lot going on, but I think where this whiskey does lose some people is the oak. The oak is somewhat, only somewhat bitter. We have like this coffee bitter thing going on, dark chocolate, and I think that might be a little bit too much for some people. And of course, that's always a risk when we're dealing with whiskeys that have some age to them. We need good wood management, we need good cask management, we need a master blender who knows how to integrate all these flavors properly. Nobody wants to drink a whiskey that tastes like someone put a plank in a blender. But that's not this whiskey. Like, yeah, it is a pretty sweet whiskey up front, especially on the nose, but once you get into the palate and the finish, of course, all those sweet notes are still there. We have like those confectionery notes, the powdered sugar, the vanilla, the Werther's Original, all those notes are present. But then you have that bitter, oaky counterbalance, and I think it works. I mean, is this the most balanced whiskey? No, probably not, but it doesn't lose me anywhere. Like, this is one of those scenarios where I kind of like the more challenging elements in this. Some of the more imperfect aspects of this whiskey are what I'm kind of latching on to. Like, for me, I do like the 15. I've reviewed it. I'll link it up there. It's a good whiskey, but it's also very engineered, and often it comes off as a little bit too pretty and technically perfect for me. This one doesn't, and because of that, I actually like it more. And so how about the Victoriana? Do I like this more than the Victoriana? And actually, that's a much tougher question. I think that would depend a lot on my mood and which batch of the Victoriana we're talking about, but hard to say. What I can say is that this is a really nice 18-year-old, and it's actually one of my favorite Glen Scotia releases. I like this better than most of their seasonal releases, their special releases. Despite what some of my previous scores might say, this is, yeah, probably my favorite, up there with Victoriana. Personally, I like how some of those bitter oaky elements cancel out some of the sweeter elements. I think the age gives this a delicacy that we don't get in the rest of the Glen Scotia line, or at least the rest of the affordable Glen Scotia line. Like, our flavors are forward, but they're not quite as pushy or sweet. as they are in other releases, if that makes any sense at all. And finally, I already mentioned this bit, but I'll say it again. I really like the cola note in here. That's a flavor that I always like in whiskey, which is funny because I don't drink cola or soda, generally speaking. But I do like it in whiskey, and I like it in here. This is a lovely 18-year-old. I'm going to recommend it. My score is 88. So I think this is one of the better Glen Scotias around. I feel like it's less engineered than a lot of their other whiskeys, which makes it more appealing for me. I like the flavors, I like the character, I like the overall experience. So don't assume that just because people recommend the 15 or the Victoriana over this, that this is something to be overlooked. I think it's a fantastic whiskey, and I think it's worth trying. Obviously, this is an 18-year-old whiskey, so it's not going to be cheap, but I bought mine for an okay price last year. I just checked a lot of the major online retailers, and I think for an 18-year-old, our price is pretty fair. So we have an okay price, we have a unique character, we have some nice flavors. It's not the best 18-year-old out there, but it's very far from the worst. I genuinely enjoy it, and if it sounds interesting, I would say it is worth the money. Alright, that's it for me today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you want to help support the channel, please consider becoming a patron. Otherwise, you can like, comment, and subscribe. Now, I do want to hear from you. Have you tried Glen Scotia 18? Did you like it? How does it compare to the 15 or the Victoriana? How do you feel about value? Let me know down in the comments. Also, in the comments, you can tell me what you want to see me review next, and I'll keep it in mind for my upcoming videos. Bye, guys.